You are the Most High. Every nation will sing that I am the Most High. I'm the one that will provide. I made ways out of no way. Turn your darkness into bright days. I am the Most High. I am the Most High. Oh, there is none like me. 'Cause I'm the Most High. That's what he's saying. Every eye shall see my glory. Every ear shall hear of my goodness. I will gather from the north. I will gather you from the south. I am the Most High. I am the Most High. I am the Most High. He's telling you, I am the Most High. I am the Most High. No need to worry. I am the Most High. No need to worry. I got the nations. You are mine. I am the Most High. Hold on to God. Hold on to faith. I am the Most High. I am the Most High. Coming soon.
Did anyone hear someone knock on the
Just like I said, I'm coming soon. Just like I said, I'm waking you out of your bed. I'm waking you. Say, you are the Most High. Say, you are the Most High. You are the Most High. Lift up your head. You are the Most High. You are the Most High. You are the Most High. Hold on to worry, 'cause He's the Most High. Hold on to fret, 'cause He's the Most High. Now listen. Say, neighbor, He's the Most High. Say, don't you worry. Don't you fret. He's the Most High. He's the Most High. He's the Most High. He is the Most High. He is the Most High. Come on, this group, that's right. I know He is. Some call Him Yahuwah. Some call Him Yahweh. Some call Him Yahweh. He is the Most High. I know He is. I know He is. I know He is. Go tell somebody. He is the Most High. Go tell somebody. He is the Most High. No need to worry. No need to worry. Hold on to worry. Hold on to worry. Hold on to worry. Hold on to worry. He is the Most High. He is the Most High. Now listen. Isaiah 6 says that the cherubims, they look at one another and they begin to cry, Kadesh, Kadesh. He is separate. Tell somebody he's separate. 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 The cherubims and the seraphim, they look at one another and say, He is the Most High. 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 Tell somebody. Tell somebody. Tell somebody. Tell somebody. Hold on to worry. Hold on to worry. Hold on to worry. Hold on to worry. He is the Most High. He is the Most High.
Ready, Brad? Yeah. Shalom, family. Shalom, everybody. He is the Most High. He is the Most High. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. And He's the Most High. And He's the Most High. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Shalom, family. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, sis.
Shalom.
Good to see y'all. As usual, y'all willing, we're going to. We don't like it. Can I hit the light right there? The light? We're gonna get into some stuff that I think everybody need to hear, and then we pretty much done with the whole Esau thing. But I told y'all I'm gonna give y'all them notes, so I'm just gonna give y'all them notes real fast. If you're on your phone, you can screenshot it. Actually, a lot of those images is from that brother Genesis 49ers, because he has a lot of information as far as Yvonne. So the other stuff we got is from some of the other researchers and stuff. Like we talking about the Saudis and the different nations. But real fast at the beginning of this, I'm just gonna give you the images so you can screenshot them and have them for your own studies. But mainly we get into another lesson today, which is gonna be called a living sacrifice. But anyway, so with that being said, in a couple seconds. Hold on a second, y'all. And again, like what we're gonna do is when we get into this teaching, we're gonna look more into the meaning of what some of these Hebraisms that we hear in the scripts mean. People say low volume. Hold on a second. Alright, is that better? Can y'all hear me better now? Y'all with money? Y'all hear me better now? Anyway, we're gonna get into one of those meanings. We're gonna see that in the Torah, there's some really, really, really deep meaning behind some of these phrases that we hear used in the Brit Hadashah or the New Testament. Especially when we use the term living sacrifice, we have no idea how deep that phrase is and what that really means. So we're gonna dig into that today. And then hopefully, if I got time, I'll get into that dream, and it's gonna hopefully it'll tie into some stuff that Aquite talked about today, because Aquite talked about Pentecostal Shavuot. Shavuot started today, according to the Gadangui calendar, and I was listening to him, and I would like to tell you the truth, do some more in-depth study on his, because what his teaching basically talked about is what it tied back into what happened in my dream, which I'll give y'all that, and then when I get a chance to go back and do that study, I'll give you some more information on that. Anyway, with that, we can go ahead and pray. Brother Abiel.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, and forgive us for our sins, evil thoughts, wicked thoughts, evil deeds, anything that we've done that may have caused offense to ourselves, our brothers, and against you. We ask you please forgive us as we forgive those who have trespassed and sinned against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Hallelujah.
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 Chill, cut it out. Yeah, it was a great teaching by the rabbi. Like I say, when I'm gonna give y'all some stuff that was in my dream, and you're gonna see how it line up, especially when he talks about Shavuot and Jericho, Sinai, and how those three things tying together, and how it tie into the restoration of the people, of us being delivered from slavery and being gathered back to the land. So, but anyway, let's go through this real fast and give y'all those slides. Those like 6 slides real fast that I didn't give y'all last time. And if y'all on your phone or something, just screenshot it so you have it for yourself. I'm not gonna read all the information on these slides, but I told you I was gonna give it to you real fast, and then we're gonna move on to the new lesson. My daughter, man. So again, today we're gonna be talking about offering your bodies as a living sacrifice. What that means in the text, where did that come from? Because that's not a new thing. It's not a new teaching. All of that comes directly out of Torah, and we're gonna see that later on, and we're gonna get a better context of how we should live our lives in that. But let's get to this real fast. So last time we talked about the Macedonians, because remember we talked about the Hittite connection to Esau. We talked about the Saudi connection to Esau, and then we was talking about the Byzantine Empire. So I'm gonna get these real fast, so y'all catch on to this, and then we just gonna keep moving. Remember, we talked about it in the book of Esther, and how if you know the story about the book of Esther, that's where we get the Feast of Purim from, when we was delivered from from death, really, from the Persians, and how Yah interceded on our behalf because of Esther's faithfulness. So we know that Haman is the one who basically stirred up the Persians against the Israelites to try to get them to oppress them. Well, Haman was called the Macedonian when you look in the Apocrypha, but he was also from the tribe. He basically was an Agagite. The Agagites are the kings of the Edomites, for a certain tribe of Edomites. So we see that he descended from them. So that's the reason why he was persecuted. Shalom, sis. He was persecuting the Israelites. We know the history behind the persecution of our people by the descendants of Esau. So that even happened back when the Persians had the Israelites in the captivity. Esau was persecuting the Israelites when they was in captivity to the Persians. But he was called the Macedonian, even though he was an Edomite. So I'm gonna show you why they called him that real fast. All right, so Esau had a couple different sons. He had a son called Eliphaz. He had another son named Teman. He had another son named Amalek. So going back to the Hittite tie right here. This is from the Saqqara grave, right? It says the Timenu of Edom and Gozan in northern Syria were the same entity neighboring to Tumana in northern Turkey. When we keep going back to Turkey, Assyrian records from 1000 BCE mention the Timani or the Timma or the Timini or the Tamuna or the Taiman. These are all different forms of the same people as in common with the Assyrian inscriptions later in 800 BCE. They were also found in the region of Assyria between Nineveh and Callan, another group of people to occupy a Berber of southern Babylonia. So these Hittite people in the area of the Hittite Empire, you had these people called the Timenu, which go back to Teman, which is the son of Esau. It was real fast, y'all, because we're gonna spend a whole lot of time on this because we got to get to the next lesson. You talking about the Timani, right? That was in the land of the Hittites, which is Asia Minor, right? Which is also the place where the 12 churches, the 7 churches were, right? So Teman, here we go. The expansion of the Macedons. Remember, we just said that Haman was called a Macedonian, but he was an Agagite. He was an Edomite. The expansion of the Macedons was associated with Herod, with the royal house, the Timni of Argos and Peloponnese. Thus, the Timni of Macedon, the oracle have just cited. They were a branch of Timidae in the house of Argos. Both the historians were in agreement that the numerous generations which divided the first Perdiccas. I'm not going to read all that because it'd be talking all day, but you get the idea. So this is from the Dictionary of Greek and Roman biography and mythology, right? and it's telling you how the people that was called the Timidai was associated with the Macedonians, and we see with the Agag. So Timon was one of Esau's sons, and Amalek was one of Esau's sons. The kings of Amalek were called Agagites, right? And also Timon, the sons of Timon, were called Timidai. Both of those two different people groups were associated with the Macedonians, right? So let's keep going real fast. So why were they associated with the Macedonians? The Macedonians are not the original quote unquote Greeks. This real fast. They're not the original quote unquote Greeks. The Greeks that we see today are not the original inhabitants of the land of Greece and Crete and them areas, right? And people were black. Remember I showed y'all images of them people? People were black. If you know history would tell you that another group of people came and took over those lands, and they intermixed with those people. They were the Macedonians, right? So the Macedonians came and took over those lands. Alexander the Great's father was Philip of Macedon. He was Philip of Macedon, right? So let's go back. There's only a couple more, then we're gonna keep moving, right? So Philip of Macedon, I told you the Macedonians was associated with two different sons of Esau, right? And they came into Greece and they took over the land of Greece and they intermingled with those people. Listen to the founding of Italy. Listen what it says. Idumanus, on finding that his life was in danger, sailed for Italy, where he built soon after his arrival the city of Polita, Saludum, or according to some, Saludum itself. Idumanus, however, afterwards returned as well as to Marion, died in his own country, where a magnificent tomb was erected to him, at which they received divine honors. The Cretans, Crete was a place of where the Greeks were. The Cretans sacrificed to them as heroes in their wars, invoking them as their protectors. This tomb was visible in the time of Diodorus in Gnosis, and the inscription, "Here lies Marion by the side of Idumenus." Idumenus means Edom. The side of Idumenus, right here. This is Italy. This is from Bell's Pantheon, historical dictionary of the gods and demigods, heroes, and famous personages of antiquity. Now, I just told you that Idumenus or Edom came to Italy, and he was honored as a almost like a god. So when you read the New Testament, you hear about this family of Edomites called the Herods,
Yes.
right? Or the Herodians. Now, what does Herodian mean? Anybody? Remember, it was Herod who killed the Messiah, right? Mm-hmm. But it was from Herod's, one of Herod's orders that they try to kill the Messiah. So where does the word Herod come from?
Where does the word Herod come from?
Mm-hmm. The word Herod the root word of Herod comes from the word heroine, or hero. That's where the word Herod comes from. The root word of the word Herod goes back to the word hero. Let's go back again. Remember, it says, this is from Bell's Pantheon, so this is a book about the gods. Mm-hmm. And the Italians wrote about Edom or Idumanus coming to that land, dying. They erected this big thing to him. So the word Herod, the root word of the word Herod goes back to the word heroine. Or remember, like a heroine is a female hero, which go back to the original word hero. So that's why they called the Edomites. Remember, because Scripture says that Herod was an Edomian. He was an Edomite. The word Herod means hero, so that's why they was associated with this, because Esau at one point in time was a great warrior. The Bible says that he was a mighty hunter, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's keep going, because we got to keep moving. We got to finish this real fast. Oh shoot! All right, here we go. Rome. All these ties show you the ties of Esau and Rome and where they come from, right? This is from the History of Arabs in the Sudan by Sir Harold Alfred. The Romans are descended with El-Rum, son of Esau. So Rome is named after. Rome is named after their ancestor Rum. Say again?
He was nursed by the...
Mm-hmm. Him and his brother, Romulus and Remus, two brothers. They founded, quote unquote, founded Rome, but it was really founded mostly after Rome. The Arabs in their histories say that Rum was actually a descendant, like Esau was like one of his grandsons or his great grandsons. So this is from their writings. They say El Rum or Rum are descended from Esau, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the friend of Elohim, and they are named after his ancestor. It is related that Esau had 30 sons of one who was El Rum. But the Romans have been joined by the tribes that it did not belong to them, namely the Tanakh and the Nahid and the Salam and the Ghassan. These tribes were in Syria. While the Muslims drove them out, and they entered into the lands of the Romans and mingled and multiplied with them, and were reckoned as Romans by descent. But they are not Romans and not Roman in genealogy. By genealogists, we know the fact, right? Right here it says the Roman mythologies, Romulus and Remus, are the twin brothers whose storytell events led to the founding of the city of the capital of Rome. Again, we're gonna spend like couple more minutes on this, then we're gonna wrap this up. So make sure y'all take note of this thing. People that had the information, y'all get the information, y'all can go back and do your own studies on it. This is that's that book right there, A History of Arabs in the Sudan. That's that same quote that we just read a minute ago. So that book is called A History of the Arabs in the Sudan, Volume 1. This is another quote from The History of the Byzantine. Now remember, we just talked about how the Byzantine Empire, was the empire of the Hittites. The Hittites cohabitated with Esau, right? That's where you ended up with the Holy Roman Church, right? And Christianity. Christianity comes out of Byzantium, which is Turkey. When the first quote unquote missionary journeys was to Turkey, the 7 churches in Revelation. First missionary journeys, even though we know that wasn't the first true I like this quote unquote church or assembly. That wasn't the first true church or the assembly. You shouldn't use the term church. But anyway, needless to say, let's keep going for time. Here we go. This is from the History of the Byzantines. Emperor Zeno visits Shechem. I can barely say that. The great conflict was brewing between the Samaritans and the Byzantine Empire, which had came to the end of the reign of Zeno. According to the Samaritan Chronicles, in the 12th year of the pontificate, which means the Pope, of the high priest Nathaniel, Zayit, king of Edom, or i.e. Zeno, emperor of Rome, came to Sikkim with greatly oppressed the Samaritans. Zeno summoned the elders and the scholars and the priests and told them, if you do not convert, we'll put you to death. And they answered, we are resigned to death by the will of Elohim. We should prostrate ourselves in front of none but him. And the emperor ordered them to death, and many of the Samaritans, 123 years after the erection of the synagogue of the high priest Ashon. And the emperor Zeno took it from the Samaritans and established it as the monastery of his saints. That's from the book, The History of the Byzantine Jews and the History of by L.E. Cohen, page 25. So telling you the whole thing about Zayit, king of the Edoms, who also lived in the area of Isaria. Last 2 slides, I think, right here. And this is from the book of Jasher. And it talks about, I ain't gonna read all that. Get a chance, read Jasher 64, verses 1 through 6. And they talk about when Zepho, who was one of Esau's sons, went to Kittim, which is ancient Rome, and conquered it. And they became one nation. I ain't gonna read all that for time because we got to get on to the lesson. But that's Jasher, write it down, chapter 64, verses 1 through 6. But if you read that in the Chronicles of Jeremiah, it'll tell you the same thing. It says, when Zepho, the son of Eliphaz, traveled from Africa to the Kittim, the inhabitants received him with great honor and presented him with many gifts, so that he became very rich. After the troops of Africa spread themselves all over the land of Kittim, and having ascended to the mountain of Carapiso on the account. So anyway, talk about how Zepho went, and he went to the land of Kittim, which is ancient Rome, and became one with that nation. That's the Chronicles of Jeremiah, page 96. Last slide. No, it's not. Hold on a second. This, you get it in, write this down. This is Muslim Studies by S.M. Stern and Hamid Dabaashi. It says, in this group belongs the Banu Asfar. And the Banu Asfar are My bad. Banu Asphar, according to this quote, says they're the grandsons of Esau. It says, Asphar, the grandson, the name of the grandchild of Esau, Al-Asphar, the father of Rum, the father of Rum, the father of Rum, the ancestor of Rome, right? This is no other than Sepho in Genesis chapter 36, verse 11. That's what it says in the book Muslim Studies. We'll read this again one more time. Asphar is in fact used in contrast to Asard. Genealogists who were not satisfied with the correct meaning of the words, a color description saw in Asphar the name of the grandchild of Esau. Al-Asphar, the father of Ramu, the ancestor of Rum. This is no other than Sepho in Genesis 36, chapter 11. And this is the big one right here. Talking about the Byzantine Empire, that's where Catholicism came from and all this other stuff. Here we go. Jews in Christian Europe. Listen to this quote. The faux Imco proclaimed in the hearing of the community that the enemy had been driven from city to city and put to flight. Panic was great in the town. Each Jew in the inner court of the bishop girded themselves with his weapons and all moved toward the palace gate to fight the Crusaders. Now, who are the Crusaders?
Those who basically killed the Israelites or
Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
That's wrong. The Crusaders were the Roman Catholic Church. They went on the Crusades, and they went all over everywhere, killing Hebrews and killing Muslims, whoever didn't convert. Right? It says, and they all moved towards the palace of the gate to fight the Crusaders and the burglars, and they fought each other up to the very gate. And the sins of the Jews brought it upon all the enemies who came and took the gate. The hand of Yah was heavily against his people. All the Gentiles were gathered together against the Jews in the courtyard to blot out their name, and the strength of our people weakened when they saw the wicked Edomites. When they saw the wicked Edomites overpowering them, the bishop's men had promised them that they were first to flee, and thus delivering the Jews in the hand of their enemies. They were indeed poor support. Even the bishop himself fled from his church, for it was thought that all was to kill him because he had spoken something good. So anyway, so you see it right here, that the Edomites were connected with the Crusaders. The Crusaders, or Byzantium. Remember, the Roman Catholic Church came out of Turkey. That is anyway. Constantinople was the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church at one point in time. All right, and this is from the classical oratory of the Sephardim. It says, for demonstrating a particular preposition, furthermore, Agulier continues, I claim it does no harm to spend time by others studying sciences, especially the logic, since many enhance that the student's understanding of the sophist argument of the Edomites or the Idumeans, i.e. Gentiles, Christians, and others. So even in this writer talks about, he calls the Edomites, these Christians, they don't mean every Christian. What it's talking about is people of the Byzantine Empire, who, though in error, reject the laws and the judgment which our master commanded us through the master Moses. So anyway, you see that right there. Now it's time to get into the lesson. All right. So anyway, those are the book. My bad. The last source is, hold on a second. The last source is Classical Oratory by the Sephardim by S. Berger, page 87. And the other one is The Jews in Christian Europe by Mark Saperstein. So anyway, you see that context of the combination of Rome and Edom. So I just want to show you that because we talk about the four European nations that Esau mixed with, which was Yavan, Tagarma, I forget the other list. Two other nations I'm missing right now. But the big ones are Yavan and Tagarma. And then eventually they mix with the Hittite nation, which is the Canaanite nation. And it's one nation I'm missing. But anyway, so that's the context. If you get a chance, y'all can get them sources. Go look for that on your own. So we got to end that. We just want to basically squash the whole context. People saying that every single white man is Esau, and how we got to hate them, and they can't come to the Passover, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. None of this stuff is true. We don't. Scripture says not. It actually says the opposite. It says hate not an Edomite because he is your brother. So, with all that being said and done, let's get into the lesson. Offer your body as a living sacrifice. This is true worship. Now that's a humongous paraphrase from the actual script, but you got the context. So everybody has been in church at one point in time, or some type of service, whether you be in a Christian church or even in the Hebrew assembly, and you heard somebody say, "Present your bodies as a living sacrifice," right? Mm-hmm. So, but we never got any context for what that actually means. So what we're gonna do is we'll look in the scripture. I'm gonna show you where that came from. There's a Torah precept. Present your body as a living sacrifice is a Torah precept. We're gonna find out, and some of it is common sense when you really think about what a living sacrifice actually is. So we won't get into that. Let's go ahead and roll. All right? This my aunt right there, Bro Quite. So Bro Quite said this when he came on Passover. And he's talking about the Ashkenazis. So, one of the Ashkenazis, one time he's on the plane, they stopped him and they said, "Hey, do you understand what you read? Do you read the Torah?" He said, "Yeah, I understand it." And he's like, he said, "So you've you done some studies on the book?" So Kuite looks at him. He said, "Yeah, my ancestors wrote it." And he said ever since then, the guy looked at him like he's crazy, but they've been friends ever since then. So when we're looking at this book, what we got to understand about this book, and the Big Op Morris did a teaching on this, on returning to culture. So the Most High has blessed us in that not only do we understand who we are, but we have the example. Shalom, sis. But we're able to look at these examples in our own culture and understand what these scripts are saying, right? We literally have the walking, talking Torah over there. So when we focus on them, we learn these traditions that we had before we came over here. We can fully understand the scripture, right? So Akwite made this statement. He says, "Just text without culture is nothing." Just text without culture is nothing. Go ahead, sit down, sis. So, because there's a lot of things that's lost in the text, so on people, without the culture. When you can see the culture, then there's certain things in the text that will come alive that you never actually seen before. Now, this statement of being a living sacrifice is something that I never saw in scripture till recently, and understanding fully what that means. But that's how we should all govern ourselves to a certain extent. So let's look into that. That's Romans 12 verse 1. "I beseech you therefore, brethren, by all mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to Elohim, which is our reasonable service." What does reasonable mean? The least, right? The least you can do. It's standard. It ain't extra. It ain't you ain't doing nothing special.
Right.
It's what's expected out of you. It's your reasonable service, right? So it goes back to what we're trying to do. So we don't want. And this is what Ikute was saying earlier about these feast days. He said, "Man, there's so much in the feast days, but people they concentrate on the ritual instead of the meaning." Right. Most of the time, we concentrate on zeeks, right? We concentrate on zeeks or fringes, and we don't concentrate on the meaning of it.
Right.
What does it mean? Well, the Most High commands you to wear fringes that you might keep the Torah or the commandments close to your heart, that you might remember them. You're supposed to look at these things and remember, right? It's just like what he said with Pesach. He said, "Do this in what?
Remembrance
Of me."
Remember some me.
So if we look at these things, and what we don't want to become as a people, because we one people, and of course we assembly, whether we online or in the house, we still have one assembly. What we don't want is we don't want to become scriptural intellectuals and miss the spiritual aspects of the Bible. Sometimes we can become script intellects, and all we do is battle and go over stuff and go back and forth, and we've had no spiritual understanding and no spiritual edification. Right? We become in essence what we thought we've left. That's what we did in the Christian church. Mm-hmm. People just tell us stuff and we just repeat it. Right? Mm-hmm. So there has to be a spiritual transformation, not just intellectualism. Right? So anyway, so let's go back to it. All right? So I'm going to give you 3 examples of a living sacrifice. We're going to start with Judges 1. Who want to read? Somebody going to read it over there. go sit over there with her so you can read. We go Judges 11, verse 1. And start from the first verse.
It's the Hebrew.
And read it loud. Just start from the verse.
Now Japheth the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a harlot.
All right, stop right there. So you got to get the context first to understand what's going on with Japheth, right? Japheth. It's kind of hard to pronounce. Anyway, so the very first thing that we see is that he's the son of a harlot. Okay?
Gilead
Keep going.
Japheth, and Gilead's wife bare him sons. And his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Japheth, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit in our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman.
All right, stop right there. So what just happened? Somebody recap what just happened. That's a lot that happened real fast in that first verse. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, they told him that he couldn't bear a son in his father's house, and the woman was strange. She was a harlot.
All right, so he married a wife, and he married a wife and he had sons, and so his sons done got froggy. When I grew up, they said, "Man, you must be feeling froggy." So then they got froggy, and they looked at him because scripture talk about how the scripture talks about fatherless son, a fatherless child or whatever. And like, for instance, there's a scripture talk about how that's why I don't get into the Joseph is the daddy stuff, and people talking about that Mashiach was conceived before they came together, because there's people that had that teaching. But the scripture says that anyone that according to Torah, that's a fatherless child cannot be a priest. So if that's the case, if Mashiach was born out of wedlock, he can't be a priest, which means he's no high priest, which means there's no salvation for the people. But saying that to say this, going back to that, so this is the shame they're trying to bring. His sons brought shame upon him because they're like, well, you was born out of wedlock, even though he fathered them and raised them. So now they turning on him, and now they're kicking him out of his own house, and according to his own prosperity. See how wicked this is. He done raised them up. They done had everything they had. They didn't go without a father. He went without a father. And then he comes to a certain age, and all of a sudden they're like, Daddy, you don't got you're a fatherless child, so we're gonna take your inheritance. We're gonna kick you out. And they kicked them out. We had Judges 11 verses 2 now. Let's keep going.
Then Japheth fled from his brethren and dwelt in the land of Tob. And there were gathered vain men of Japheth and went out with him. And it came to pass in process of time that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. And it was so that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to fetch Japheth out of the land of Tob. And they said unto Japheth, Come and be our captain, that we may fight with the children of Ammon. And Japheth said unto the elders of Gilead, Did not ye hate me and expel me out of my father's house? And why are ye come unto me now when ye are in distress?
All right, so check this out. So, Yephthah was like this big time warrior, and so when Israel got in trouble, they needed him. So even though they kicked him out of his butt for no reason, because they did no unrighteousness, they just said, "Oh, you a fatherless son. You raised the fatherless son." Now they didn't have to go back and get him for help. He's like, "Why y'all need me now?" I said, "Oh, why don't you just come on back?" So now he's ready. Now they're bringing him back. Let's keep going.
And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, therefore we turn again to thee now, that thou mayest go with us and fight against the children of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. And Jephthah said unto the elders of Gilead, if ye bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, then the Lord deliver them before me. Shall I be your head? And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, the Lord be witness between us, and if we do not so according to thy works, according to thy words. Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and captain over them. And Jephthah uttered all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. And Jephthah
Let me stop right there. So let me show you something too. When it says that Jephthah, and going back to spiritual tenets and what the scripture says about vows. So when we hear that somebody talking about whether or not if you already married to a Gentile person, all this sort of stuff, you made a vow, and that's how strong these vows are. The reason why he uttered these words before Yah Mizpah, so the Yah would hear it, and that there would be a witness. So Yah would hear it, and there'd be a witness. In other words, they made a vow to him, and now he's making a vow before Yah. So there'll be witnesses there that if they don't keep that vow, somebody be put to death. All right, let's just keep going.
And Jephthah sent messengers unto the king of the children of Ammon, saying, what hast thou to do with me, that thou art come against me to fight in my land? And the king of the children of Ammon answered unto the messengers of Jephthah, because Israel took away my land, when they came up out of Egypt from Arnon even unto Jabbok and unto Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands again peaceably. And Jephthah sent messengers again unto the king of children of Ammon.
All right, so let's jump down to 29th verse.
All right.
There's good stuff in there, but for time, let's keep going.
Then the spirit of Yah came upon Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpah and Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he passed over unto the children of Ammon. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto Yah.
He did what?
He vowed a vow.
He did what?
He vowed a vow.
Everybody, he did what?
Vowed a vow.
Vowing a vow is extremely important. Your word is extremely important to Most High. Don't just go around making vows to people that you're not going to keep. If you're going to make a vow, you got to keep the vow. And this is how important it was in our culture versus the westernized culture, when a vow is nothing. It's nothing. Like a vow is like a chicken sandwich from Mickey D's. It's nothing. Right. So, did I freeze? Okay. So him making this vow is extremely important. I'm gonna show you how important it was to him. So let's keep going.
And Jephthah vowed a vow unto Yah and said, if thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into mine hands, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be the Yah's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering.
All right. So he said that, Yah, if you allow me to go and conquer the Ammonites, when I come back, whatever comes through my doors,
Yeah,
that's,
it'll
right?
be yours.
It's yours. I'm giving it up. That's my word. So let's see what happens. Keep going.
So Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Yah delivered them into his hands. And he smote them from error, even till thou come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and unto the plain of the vineyards with a great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. And Jephthah came to Mizpah unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances.
All right, so think about how sad this is. He comes back, he slaughtered 20 cities. Think about how big this was. 20 cities he slaughtered, right? He come back, everybody's rejoicing. His daughter comes out. Now, what did we say at the beginning about his sons? What happened with his sons? They kicked him out. His sons were some bastards.
Right.
Okay.
They were some absolute bastards that was wicked. His sons were wicked. His sons were the ones that caused him to be cast away in the first place. Even though this dude was a phenomenal leader and warrior. He was respected in Israel, but it was his sons had zero respect for him. So he lost everything originally because of his sons. Now paint the picture. Think about this picture in your head. He's coming back. Everybody's rejoicing in the Wonder War 20 cities. And then he comes to his house and he's probably fully ready to give one of his sons up. His sons are wicked anyway. They need to be sacrificed or whatever. They need to be dedicated to something. And he comes and the person that loves him the most, that's closest to his heart, comes out the door. His daughter. And only his daughter comes out rejoicing. To see his father again. Right? Yeah, her father again come back from the war. That's why she comes out with timbrels. She's celebrating the return of her father. Right. Listen what happens. Keep going. 34.
And Japheth came to Mizpah unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances. And she was his only child. Beside her he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass, when he saw her, that he rent his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low, and thou art one of them that trouble me. For I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, unto Yah, and I cannot go back. And she said unto him, My father, if thou hast opened thy mouth unto Yah, do to me according to that which hath proceeded out of thy mouth. Forasmuch as Yah hath taken vengeance for thee of thine enemies, even of the children of Ammon.
All right, you see that? So when it came, like the sister saying right here online, she fully understood the importance of the vow.
Yeah.
He understood the importance of the vow. So they made the vow, and she basically said, let it be.
Yeah.
Right? 37, let's keep going.
And she said unto her father, Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down upon the mountains and bewail my virginity and my fellows. And he said, Go. And he sent her away for 2 months, and she went with her companions, and bewailed her virginity upon the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months that she returned unto her father, who did with her according to his vow, which he had vowed. And she knew no man, and it was a custom in Israel.
All right,
The daughters of
go ahead.
that the daughters of Israel went yearly to Lamech, the daughter of Japheth and Gileadite, 4 days in a year.
So he gave up the only thing that he had. Like I said, I misquoted at the beginning. It was his brothers that did it, that cast him out, not his sons. But saying that to say, so he's mourning his only, right? The only person that cares about him, the only person, remember, because again, they all betrayed him, right? And he gave her up for a living sacrifice. This is why she's bewailing her virginity. Why is she bewailing her virginity? She's crying over her virginity. Say again? Because she never was married and she never will be. She never will be. She was going to be dedicated to the service of the Most High for the rest of her life. So, and she was ready for that, but it became a tradition in the nation. And I'm going to show you this again in the scripture. We starting here, we're going back to that, right? I'm going to give you a couple other examples. This became a tradition in the nation for certain women, because this was a new tradition, because there was already a tradition for men to do this. But this became a new tradition with the women in Israel who decided to be dedicated completely to the service of Yah. And their whole life, that's what they would do. They wouldn't marry, they wouldn't do anything else. They would be dedicated to the service of serving the Most High. In other words, there'll be a living sacrifice. You're dead to the world. Everything else, every other aspect of the world, and all your whole life is just in servitude to the Most High. So that's the first example. I'm gonna get you 3 witnesses. So let's go to 1 Samuel. Chapter 1. 1 Samuel, chapter 1. And we'll see in both examples, it's the only child. In both of these examples, what we're talking about. But whoever got that, 1 Samuel 1, and let's go. Anybody, don't mind.
Can we switch phones? Oh wait. Didn't so soon.
I started off. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zoph in the mount of Ephraim. His name was Elkanah, the son of Yerom, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, the Ephraimite. 1 second. Who had 2 wives, and the name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. You always see, again, you've seen this before, right? Rachel and Leah,
Yeah.
Jacob's wives. At one point in time, one had no children, the other one did.
The other did.
Right? Right now you're seeing 2 wives, Hannah and Peninnah. So Hannah had no children, Peninnah did. 3rd verse. And this man went up out the city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto Yah of armies in Shiloh. And his 2 sons, Eli, Hophni, and Phinehas, the priest of Yah, were there. So every time this brother had 2 wives, one of them had children, one of them didn't. But he was dedicated, so he would go to Jerusalem to worship, right? And at that time, there was 2 priests that was there. There was Hophni and Phinehas. They're the sons of Eli. They're the Levites, and they're the ones who would do the service. All right, let's keep going. And this man went up out of the city. We just read that. 4th verse. And there was a time where Elkanah offered, and he gave to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters and their portions. But Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah, but Yahuwah had shut up a womb. So he was giving her, he was basically sacrificing for his family. He would make sacrifices for his whole family. And he would make sacrifices for her, because he loved her, but she was not able to conceive a child at the time. And her adversary also provoked her. And who was her adversary? Her sister wife, Peninnah. So Peninnah would mock her because she couldn't have any children, constantly, right? And her adversary also provoked her sore and made her fret because Yahuwah had shut up her womb. And that she did so by year by year. So she went up to the house of Yah. So she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. All right. So why is she eating? Because they're going up to the feast days, right? Remember when Akwite was talking about, Akwite had teaching today. He's talking about the feast days and how important they are, and how the feast days are portals. They're time periods. They're not just rituals you go through, but they're time periods to make your requests before Yah to change things in your life. Say it again. There are portals or there are time periods before you to go before Yah to change things in your life. Whatever that's going wrong in your life, whatever you need to change in your life. So she fully understood this. So every time they would go up to the feast, he's giving a double portion for her, for her for her to sacrifice for her. And she's praying that the Most High would change her situation, because she couldn't conceive no child. But nothing changed. All right. Verse 8. Then Elkanah said to her husband, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart not grieved? Because they're going up to the feast, right? She ain't eating. She wondering why is this happening to me? That's basically her mindset. Why is I grieved? Am I not better to thee than 10 sons? So Hannah rose up after she had eaten in Shiloh, and after she had drunk. Now Eli, the son of the priest that sat upon the post by the temple of Yah. And she was in the bitterness of her soul and prayed unto Yah and wept sore. And she vowed a vow and said, O Yahuwah of armies, if thou indeed look on my affliction of thy handmaid and remember me, and forget not thy handmaid, but if thou give unto thine husband a man child, then I will give unto Yah all the days of his life, and there should be no razor come upon his head. What do you think that means? When he says no razor come upon his head.
Isn't that significant? How you're not supposed. Right.
Like he was.
So it seems
I
like.
guess like.
Shut it right now.
So it seems like
Okay,
it's literal and figurative.
shut your mouth.
I think we're all right. No consequence, no punishment.
You don't tell us when you know. When you do whatever you better do. We ain't tell you to do so. You understand me? All right. My bad, y'all. Yeah, so when the scripture says, no raise will come upon your head, what does that mean?
Consequence and punishment.
Nazarite.
Yeah, I think don't cut his hair.
Don't cut his
So
hair.
it is literal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is literal.
Going back to the vow again, Nazarite vow, which is both spiritual and physical, because when scripture says when you make a vow, when a man makes a Nazarite vow, he don't take no raise upon his head and he don't drink any strong drink. So basically, she was dedicating him to be a Nazarite, in the whole context of a Nazarite is to be somebody that's set apart, right? So she's saying the same thing that Yephthah said about his daughter. He said, if whoever comes through my doors, I'm gonna dedicate them. I'm gonna sacrifice them. Now, the reason why they're a living sacrifice because they're not dead. Remember, any sacrifice that you sacrifice, they die. Right? If you're making an offering, you have to kill the thing to offer it. Right? If you make a bull or a goat or a lamb, you got to kill the bull, the goat, and the lamb to sacrifice it. But in this context, you're not killing the thing, even though it's still a death. There's a separation, right? So she's saying the same thing with my son. So if you give me this son, I'm gonna dedicate him to you. I'm gonna kill that tie. That tie is gonna be severed. I'm not gonna have that relationship that I want to have with it. I'm gonna give it all to you. So there's a death, there's a separation within that, right? So anyway, let's keep going. Oh shoot, what verse was I on, y'all? Was on 15? Now Hannah spoke. My bad. Oh yeah, 11. And she vowed a vow and said unto Yahuwah armies, if thou indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid, and remember me, that thou have not forgot thy handmaid, but will give unto thy handmaid a man child, then I will give unto him Yahuwah all the days of his life. All the days of his life. Where's that? Sorry, y'all. And there shall no raise come upon his head. It means he's going to be separated. He's going to be a Nazarite. And it came to pass as she continued praying before Yahuwah that Eli marked her mouth. Now, what does that mean? How does Eli mark her mouth? Did he go over there with a marker and write on her mouth?
No.
That's another Hebraism. What does that mean? He marked her mouth?
Did he make
Did
it?
he
Just shut her up.
forbid her to speak?
That means
Or told her what to speak?
he witnessed what she said.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
You know, like old folks down here, they say, listen at you. That's what they, was like, well,
Oh, okay.
You ever say that? I listen at you, or like somebody say, oh, listen at you, or whatever. So he marked her mouth, meaning that he observed what she was saying, or he was witness to what she was saying,
Okay.
right? Kind of like that. Kind of like that, sound the same thing. Now Hannah spoke in her heart, only with her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. So she's praying to herself, like she wasn't praying aloud. And he was studying. He was still able, I guess, to read her lips. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, how long wilt thou have been drunken? Put away the wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, no, my master. I'm a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have poured out my soul before Yahuwah. Now when it says pour out my soul, it means like a wine offering, like a drink offering. Remember, Shell says the same thing. He says pour ourselves out like a drink offering. That means be a sacrifice, because an oblation or a drink offering is a sacrifice to Yah. Something that's like, for instance, when you do a libation or a drink offering, you pour it upon the ground, or you're not drinking that.
Right.
You don't drink the drink offering. You sacrificing. You giving it up. You're giving everything you have to Yah. So it's the same context. You're saying I'm poured out like a drink offering. Everybody got me? So, verse 16. Count not thy handmaid for a daughter of Belial or Satan. For out of the abundance of my complaint and my grief have I spoken hereto. Then Eli answered and said, go in peace. And the Elohim of Israel grant thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And he said, let thy handmaid find grace in thy spirit. So the woman went away and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. So she believed what Eli said. And she's like, you know what? It's going to change. Right? Remember, she been coming up to the feast All these different times praying that this is going to be the time when it's going to change, and it never changed. And now she runs to Eli, and Eli perceives that the Most High done heard her, and she believes Eli, and so her countenance has changed. Verse 19. And they rose up early in the morning and worshipped before Yah, and returned, and came back into the house in Ramah, and Elkanah knew his wife. Y'all know what that means. And Yahuwah remembered her. That means they played some soft music and like lit some candles. Wherefore, it came to pass when it was time after Hannah had conceived, she bare a son and called his name Samuel, because I asked him of Yahuwah. And Samuel means looking at Yah, face of Yah. Shalom, family. Going back to that. So the context is that she heard from Yah, so that's why she named him Samuel, right? And Elkanah and all his house went up to offer before Yah yearly the sacrifice and his vow. So he never stopped, right? Remember, because the elder of this family is righteous, just like the really homeboy Yephthah was also a righteous man. He was born out of a bad situation. So he's still going up giving his making his vows and doing his sacrifices. Shalom, fam. We 1 Samuel 1st chapter. Now we at the 22nd verse. But Hannah went not up, for she called unto her husband, I will not go up to the child be weaned. Then I will bring him in, that he may appear before Yah and abide there forever. That he may appear before Yah and abide there forever. So what does that mean? Somebody tell me.
He gonna minister.
He gonna minister.
Before God's place.
Right. He's never gonna leave.
He's never gonna leave.
So when she was gonna take him, just like we see with Yephthah, when he dedicated his daughter, right? And his daughter and all the rest of them went up to the mountain. They started mourning her virginity because she wasn't gonna be married. She was all her life was gonna be in service. She became a living sacrifice, and all her life she served Yah. Same thing with we see with Samuel, right? So Samuel, when he was born, because of the vow that was made by his parents, was going to continually grow up in the temple. He's going to serve in the temple with Eli. So she brings, and it said once he's weaned, once he comes out the breast, I'm giving him to Eli to be raised in the temple as a living sacrifice. So his life is sacrifice. He's not living the normal life and given to the cares that we would. Every single second of his life is dedicated to the service of Yah. So that's why she said, leave him there forever. Like she's like, I'm giving him up. He yours from then on. Raise him up in the way. And Elkanah and her husband said unto her, do it seem to thee good until thou have weaned them only. And Yahuwah established his word. So the woman abode and gave her son suck until he was weaned. And when he was weaned, he took him up with her 3 bullocks, 1 ephah of flour, and a bottle of wine. That's your oblation. That's your drink offering. And brought him into the house of Yah in Shiloh, and when he was a young child. And they slew the bullock and brought forth the child to Eli. And he said, O my master, as my soul liveth, my master, I am a woman who stood thee here praying unto Yahuwah and the child. And for this child I pray, and Yahuwah have given me a petition which I asked of him. So you see the context. I'm just giving y'all some examples of these people that were living sacrifices. So we see Yephthah's daughter, who was a living sacrifice. She did everything. He gave the vow that whoever come through these doors, when I return back from this, if you give me the land, that they'll be separated into Yah. So they be separated into Yah. She mourned all her friends, and it became a tradition in Israel. They would go up to that mountain and mourn that for her, right? So the same thing with Samuel. From the day he was born was sacrificed. He was given to the temple, right? So I'm trying to show you that practice, and now we can get to the context of why. So the question is why, right? And I'm gonna read this real fast. We're gonna keep going. Exodus 13 verses 12 and 13. That thou should set apart. That thou shalt set apart. What does set apart mean? Holy. So set apart means holy. So these people were what? Set apart from the people. They were dedicated for living sacrifices. They was made holy because they were separate. Chip, no ma'am. They were made separate. Exodus, again, 13, verses 12 and 13. Thou shalt set apart unto Yah all that openeth the matrix. Now, the matrix is a King James friendly word for the opening, you know what I'm saying, or the womb. Thou shalt set apart unto Yah all that openeth the matrix, every firstling firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast, the males shall be Yahuwah's. And every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. Now listen to this context now. Every ass will be redeemed with the lamb. What is an ass? What is an ass known for? Stubbornness. Right? Somebody say you're hard. Right?
Yeah.
Or dumb.
Yeah.
Right? So every ass is redeemed with a lamb. What is a lamb known for? Purity, humbleness, meekness, right? Obedience, because a lambs obey the shepherd. Gentle, all these things. So every ass is redeemed with a lamb. Listen now. And if thou wilt not redeem it, then thou shalt break the neck. And all the firstborn of a man among thy children, thou shalt thou also redeem. So all this going back to the redemption, right? You redeem an ass with a lamb, right? And if not, then something has to die, right? Let's keep going. Numbers 3, verses 12. And I behold, that thou hast taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead all the firstborn that opened the matrix. This is your witness of 3. All the firstborn that opened the matrix among the children of Israel, therefore the Levites shall be mine. Numbers 18, verse 15. Everything that opened the matrix, see, going back to whatever opened the matrix, whatever comes through the womb. Everything that opens the matrix of the in all flesh, whether they bring it to you, or whether they be men or beasts, shall be mine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of a man thou shalt surely redeem. Thou shalt surely redeem. The firstborn shall surely be redeemed. Right? And the first things of unclean beasts thou shalt also redeem. What's redeem? What does redeem mean?
Renew, make.
Bring it back. Maybe like to restore.
Salvation, like to save something, redeem, justify something.
To certain texts, yeah.
And this
We-
one says ransom. So it's like give forth, pay for.
Yeah.
We're going to get into it. We can get into it. So again, we see the connotation of the firstborn. So we see it in Samuel's context, he was the firstborn. He was the only born.
So it's like an offering.
It is an offering. Because the scriptures tell us that the firstborn of each family, this is what we used to do in the past.
Right.
The firstborn of each family was dedicated to Yah. He had to be brung, and he went through, it's a ceremony where they'd be dedicated to the service of Yah. They don't necessarily mean that they serve in the temple forever like Samuel did. They'd be dedicated to the temple, but they all of them had a dedication to the service. Now I know it seems like a side note, but it's not, because this is what you're gonna see is everything in the Messianic order is based off this. Everything that Mashiach did is based off him being the firstborn. Mm-hmm. It's all based off him being the firstborn. Okay. We, in the context, are also a firstborn to a certain extent, and I'm gonna give you the context of what that means. Okay. But anyway, let's keep going. We'll give you the foundation to lead up to it. And all these things is the living sacrifice, because the living sacrifice is the firstborn. Say it again. The living sacrifice is the firstborn. Every child, every firstborn of a male that open the womb, and then we see later on also the women, starting with Yephath's daughter, right, is dedicated to the service of Yahuwah. Exodus 13 verses 14 through 16. I'm sorry. And it shall be when the son asks thee in the time to come. This is the reason why. Going back to the word redeem. We'll go to the word redeem in a second. When thy son shall ask thee in time to come, saying, what is this? What is what? Why do you dedicate the firstborn? What's the purpose of you dedicating the firstborn? Why do you have to do that?
Right.
That thou shalt say unto him, by the strength of the hand of Yah brought us from Egypt, from the house of bondage. Check this out. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh had hardly let us go, that Yahuwah slew the firstborn. He slew the firstborn in the land of Egypt. Both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. So what he tell you? Bring the firstborn of beast, bring the firstborn of man. Listen. Therefore I sacrifice unto Yahuwah all that open the matrix, being males, but all the firstborn of my children I redeem. Redeem. The firstborn. Anyway, let's keep going. And it shall be for a token upon thy hand and from the frontlets between thy eyes. What that means is it's going to be with you forever. It's going to be in your mind and in your power. Frontlets between your eyes, that's your mind, right? Your hand is your power, especially your right hand. So he's saying, chip, no ma'am. No ma'am. So again, the context of dedicating the firstborn is locked up with what happened in Egypt. So for our deliverance, there had to be what? Sacrifice. So what he do? In that scripture, he says, I ransomed Ethiopia for you. He did the same thing with Egypt. Was Pharaoh's heart hard by itself, or did the Most High harden it?
The Most High.
And didn't he harden it? He said, because to do what? To show his glory, right?
Right.
It was by his purpose. It was part of his plan. So it's going back to the same thing about the firstborn. So the sacrifice of Egypt's firstborn, right? Because you're doing what? To redeem the ass. The scripture says that Israel is a what? Stick-necked and hard-headed people.
Yeah, that's why he told you.
Right. So to redeem the ass, you must slaughter the lamb.
Yes.
So what did they do in Egypt? They slaughtered the lamb. Put the blood on the blood post right over. And in that process, what happened? The firstborn of Egypt died. But they were redeemed. Going back to the word, we're going to go back to the word redeemed, which means ransom. But they were the first group out. To a certain extent, they were the firstborn. They were the first generation. In order for you to set a house, it's two things that got to be set up, and this is the reason why they talk about the firstborn. So first, you got the father. The father has to be in line, right? The father has to be in line. And if you want to direct the children, it's the firstborn. It's the firstborn. Because what happens with the firstborn? The firstborn, whoever the eldest among them children, they set the tone in the house with the children. They gonna every young man, if it's brothers, 3 or 4 brothers, they gonna look up to their older brother. Well, that's my older brother. Oh man, you miss me, man. I'm gonna go home to my brother. Whoever said that? You understand what I'm saying? They set the tone. So this whole context of dedicating the firstborn, it's the same thing. So Mashiach was what? He was the firstborn. Yes, and he was a what? Living sacrifice. Let's keep going.
Somebody crying in there.
Probably my daughter. She cried about everything. And for nothing. All right, so let's go Romans 8. Let's go back to Shaul. And we're gonna go at the end of this. We're gonna dive into the culture. I'm gonna show you in the culture what is and how this works in practice.
But it made me think about Reuben, firstborn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He had to come back and say Reuben.
Right.
He was the firstborn, but he slept with his fathers. Reuben was his first. That was his strength. He
Right.
said, "Reuben, my strength."
Right.
Pretty,
Right. Let's go. Romans 8 and just what we got. Read 10 verses from 29 to 39. And see, like I said, these practices that the Most High gave us in the script, they do more. It's not just like the Quite says, it's not just a ritual. You know what I'm saying? It's there's spiritual significance behind it. There's power in it. So, whoever got that Romans 8, read 29 to 39 for me, because I ain't pulled it up yet.
Because those whom he knew beforehand, he also ordained beforehand.
All right, so who did he know beforehand? Israel. He didn't know no other people according to script, right? Mm-hmm. All right, keep going.
He also ordained beforehand to be conformed to the likeness of his then, that he become the firstborn among many brothers.
All right, so check this out. So he said that we will destined to be conformed in his image, which he's the firstborn. So we in the same context, right? That we be the firstborn among many brethren. So we talk about the early rain and the latter rain, right? Mm-hmm. So another scripture where he says we're the first partakers of that fruit. Go back to the firstborn. All right, keep going.
And whom he ordained beforehand, those he also called. And whom he called, those he also declared right. And whom he declared right, these he also esteemed. Mm-hmm. What then shall we say to this? If Elohim is for us, who is against us? Mm-hmm. Truly, He who did not spare his own Ben, but delivered him up on behalf of us all, how shall he not, along with him, freely give us all else? Who shall bring any charge against Elohim's chosen ones? It is Elohim who is declaring right. Who is he who is condemning? It is Hamashiach who died, and furthermore is also raised up, who is also at the right hand of Yah, who also makes intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Mashiach? Shall pressure or distress or persecution or scarcity of food or nakedness or danger or sword? As it has been written, for your sake we are all killed all day long. We are reckoned as sheep of slaughter.
All right, that's good right there. But if you get the gist of going back to this context of him being he's the firstborn, and we're like that. We're made in that same image of being the firstborn. The firstborn is the living sacrifice. He's the one who's dedicated to Yah, the one that's brought to the temple to serve, right? But anyway, let's keep going. So let's look at that word redeem. Remember, he says that he going back to the context of him being the firstborn to redeem us. So we keep talking about redeem. Now, redeem is interesting. We're going to see two different meanings, two different words for the word redeem, right? So the first word we see for redeem is gawal, right? It means, check this out, to redeem or act as a kinsman redeemer. To redeem or act as a kinsman redeemer. So we talk about gawal is only connected to a family, to a certain group of people. Like we go back to the text where it says, remember we read Deuteronomy 28 and it says, you go to Egypt again by ship, and it says, no man shall redeem you. Yeah. Right? So going back to the context of that word, that's galal. Galal means for someone in your own family to come and redeem you out. But somebody in your family has to redeem you out.
Boaz. I'm going to redeem.
Boaz.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. What's that now? To that same context.
It's like keeping it in the family.
Exactly what it is. So we got to look at the context that
It's
there's
significant though, right? Because it's family. that's
oh man,
redeeming
it's
you.
extremely significant between them two words, because technically them two words is saying the same thing, but it's two different contexts of who does what. Because Yah doesn't have to padah. He doesn't have to padah. He go allow because he's the father. So what he does, he redeems his own family. He's the fellow kinsman who brings the family out of slavery. Because the context is, it says you will go to slavery again on ship, and no man shall redeem you. So he's telling you, no man's going to do it.
That's right. Only your kinsman.
Only your kinsman can do it.
That's right.
So only your own kinsman can come and get you out of your slavery or redeem you out of your slavery.
From amongst your brethren.
From amongst your brothers. It says Yehuda sprang out of where?
Yehuda.
Judah.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeshua sprung out of Judah. So he's coming out of Judah. He's your own kinsman. He's your own family. They should call his name Yehoshua, but he would do what? Save his people from their sins. His people, not everybody. His people. You get the context? He's a fellow kinsman redeemer. Gala. Now, we, on the other hand, we do our sacrifices, we padah. Right? We doing a drink offering or whatever we doing, we padah. Which is we ransoming or and all that kind of stuff. We are being padah, but he is Gala, the kinsman redeemer. Let's look at this a little bit. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Genesis 48 verse 16. This is what it says. This is basically talking about Jacob. Jacob says, and the angel which redeemed me, that's Gala, right? So the angel which redeemed me from all evil. So Jacob is giving you the context. He said there was an angel that Gala'd me. I had a fellow kinsman that I met with that brought me from my slavery, that brought me from my servitude, that brought me from my situation. So what are the two things that we see associated with Jacob? Jacob met two different angels. Well, two different times he met an angel. One time when he was dealing with his wives with Laban. Right? Because Laban made him what? A servant.
He couldn't do that either.
He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't get out of it. Everybody, did you know the story?
He was bound.
Okay, all right. So this is the story. When Jacob basically had Laban had a wife, had these daughters. Jacob wanted to marry one. So he said, I want to come marry your daughter. He said, okay, you got to serve me for 7 years.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, all right, cool. But it was a trap.
Right.
Time's up.
Right? He's like, hey, I got another one. You can get him. You can't get her yet. Right? He said, really? So you got to serve 7 more years.
But he had so much determination in him.
Right? He didn't quit.
Right. He wanted serving.
He kept serving.
Yeah.
Right? But then the angel, again, when an angel appeared to him during that time, and I forget exactly. Let's go to that scripture and show you exactly what he said. I forget exactly what the first appearance. But it basically dealt with him about that when he was going with these 2 wives. But the interesting thing, going back to even this current captivity, Laban means white. So he served the white. That's what don't mean that he was white. That was his name.
Yeah.
His name was white.
Yeah.
Laban means white. So he served the white man for this certain period of time to gain these 2 wives. And then had children born in what? Captivity.
Yes.
Northern Southern Kingdom.
The northern and the southern kingdom in captivity. To Laban, who's the white man.
Wow.
You get this
You gotta
context?
have both of them too before you leave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
One
But-
stick.
Right. So, and then it was the angel. He's telling you it was the angel that let him out. So as soon as he left and when he gathered his children, who did he run into? Esau. He ran into Esau. And Esau was one to take his life. Right? So, but Esau wasn't able to take his life because he put the whole country, he put his family before him, all that kind of stuff, and all that kind of stuff. But after that, what happens? Then he wrestles with the angel. He wrestles with the angel. And then the name of that place when he wrestled, he said, I had seen Elohim. That's what it basically go back to.
Peniel.
Right, Peniel. So this whole context was, he's talking about something. He said, the angel which God allowed me. He was a kinsman. He's telling you that the angel that appeared to him was a kinsman. Get what I'm trying to tell y'all, man. He was a kinsman. He came there to deliver him out of his slave. See, go back to it's Mashiach. Remember with ascending and descending, Mashiach?
Yes.
The angel of Yah who appeared to them?
That's right. In the dream.
Right.
Vision.
In the visions and all sort of stuff, different time. So it's going back to the same context. He says, that's why Moshe says what? He says, a prophet that I raise unto you, like unto your brethren. In other words, in your own family.
Whatever he say.
What if he say you're gonna hear him and who not gonna die, right? So he's raising up, he's your kinsman redeemer to bring you out of what? Your slavery. So Jacob was in slavery. Jacob was in servitude. His family was born in servitude. And it was delivered through what? The words of the angel. So Jacob was telling you out of his own mouth. He says, the angel which God allowed me from evil. Bless the lads, right? And let my name be named on them. And let the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude upon the face of the earth. So again, he's in the same context. We in the same thing. We in captivity. Born into captivity. Then according to scriptures, anyway. So after that, we're going back into the wilderness and then receive the promise. Through the exact same format. But it's all because of the kinsman redeemer. So the kinsman redeemer is coming to save us again. All right? So here we go. All right? So Luke 21, we're going back to the word redeemed. Then we're going to go back into the context of the firstborn. Remember now, because the scripture talk about how it's the firstborn the firstborn who redeems us, right? The first precept, we looked at in Leviticus, so the practice of dedicating the firstborn, it says that the firstborn is what redeems them. You have to dedicate the firstborn to redeem, I guess, the house. So, looking at this, so let's go to Isaiah 63. Who want to read that? Read verses 1 through 7.
Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah?
Mm-hmm.
This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thine garments like him that treadeth in wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, in the year of my redeemed.
Give you what?
In the year of my redeemed.
All right. So that's two different words. Now, Galal is the actual person. He's the kinsman redeemer. Padah is the ransom. But the word ransom. So Padah is the ransom. So the people are the ransomed. So I'm about to get into the word ransom in a minute. So it's two different contexts. Palau is the person who does the redeeming. Padah is the actual people that's being redeemed. So he says, go back to this. It says, the day of vengeance is in my heart. The year of my Padah is come to the ones that's ransomed for. Right? So we look at Luke 21:28. It says, look up when you see these things come to pass. Right? Lift up your head. You're what? Redeemed. You the Padah. You're the ones that are ransomed. He's the kinsman redeemer. He's the one in the family that's coming to sell you, get you out of your slavery.
He's on his way.
He's on his way. That's why it's called the day of vengeance. The scriptures call it the day of Yahuwah. Let's keep going. So, let's go back to the context. These definitions. Anyone can be justified, but only Israel can be redeemed. Anyone can be justified, but only Israel can be redeemed. Because you have to be in the family. You have to be a kinsman redeemer. Do you understand?
Yep. Only for the house of Israel.
It's only for the house.
Right.
Only for the house.
Now everybody can be justified because scripture says that he's faithful to anyone keeps his commandments in so many generations. Because justified means tzedakah, or to mean lawful. To be just, to be righteous, to be lawful. Anybody can be lawful, and the Most High respect that, honor that. But only people that need redeemed are people that's ransomed for, or the people that need to be that the kinsman redeemer has to bring out.
You have to give up so much.
You've been an ass.
Right. The ones that's been an ass. That the lamb has to redeem.
Come on, dude. That's why you got over here. That's
Yes.
why you've been an ass.
Yes.
Right. That's so
The sins of the fathers. So again, it says justified, zadak, be made lawful, redeemed, dalal, to redeem or act as kinsman redeemer. So check this out, avenge. Avenge. Let's read it again. Isaiah 63, verse 4. For the day of
vengeance is in my heart.
in the year of what?
My redeemed has come.
That's the context, right? Kill the ass, save the ass by slaying the lamb. Avenge, your revenge, your ransom. Do the part of a kinsman. And again, padah means to ransom or redeem, rescue, or deliver. So let's keep going. Got out. Again, Matthew 1 verse 21. And ye shall bring forth a son and shall call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. He's the kinsman. He's the kinsman. Got out. To act as a kinsman redeemer, avenge, revenge, ransom, do the part of. So everybody else can't be redeemed. And the reason why they can't be redeemed is because they're not in the covenant. Covenant was never made for them.
Right.
You transgressed the covenant. They didn't. They didn't have a covenant. They didn't have a covenant. They ain't nowhere in the scripture where the Most High made a covenant with the Gentiles. He never did. He made a covenant with you. Your fathers broke the covenant. So you have been in transgression of the covenant. So you needed a kinsman to come redeem you out of your transgression.
Because he knows your troubles.
That's right.
He knows.
Yes, he understands. Who knows better than your own family?
Right.
That's why he said.
Right.
That's why he was pleased to lay down his life.
Right. But Shaul said, I wish I would curse for my own family, for my own people. Right? Because he understood the context. So when people were around talking about being redeemed, you have been redeemed, you've been justified or made righteous. If you were somebody else, you could do that in the Most High. He said he'll honor anybody to keep the commandments. He gonna honor you regardless. And he said there'll be a place amongst the people for the Gentiles who keep his commandments. They will have names like children of Israel. In other words, they'll be able to dwell amongst the people too. But you don't need to be redeemed because you didn't have a covenant that was broken.
Right.
There was never. You don't need a savior because you serving your Elohim. You understand? Every nation has their own Elohim. Every nation. That's why they serve other gods. Go to the nation, they got their own other gods. Greeks got their gods. The Hindus got their gods. Everybody got a god. Everybody on earth got a god that they serve. And they serving them correctly. They serving them the way that Elohim charged them to do. If we look at the book of Daniel, we see in the book of Daniel, we talk about the prince of Persia. Right? It was a spirit who ruled over Persia. Right? And remember, Michael, I ain't trying to come in and do war with him so Gabriel could leave and give Daniel the message. So they served that Elohim. They all got their own Elohims. You got an Elohim though. You out of order because you broke your covenant.
Yes.
So you had to have somebody to put you in right standing, somebody who could a kinsman, somebody from your own lineage or somebody from your own blood that could come out and bring you back out of that slavery. Because anybody that's not outside of that family is not part of that family. You're trying to be American, but this is reason why you've been in America for I don't know how long. You ain't never been American, not one day.
Not one.
Not a single day have you been an American.
Not one. It never will be.
When they wrote the Constitution of America, they put you down as property.
Yes. Still considered property.
You still consider to be property.
Still considered
Need somebody to buy you back.
You need somebody to buy you back. No matter where you go on the earth, you ain't nowhere you welcome. Ain't nowhere you welcome. Every other nation that come over here has a homeland they can go back to. They got a people that can be accepted. This is what Scripture says. It says that the Most High, He said He set the boundaries of the Gentiles according to the number of the children of Israel. Let's read it. Let's read it. Is that Deuteronomy 32?
Sounds just like it. Another dude, huh?
They don't need a redeemer. You need a redeemer. Yep, Deuteronomy 32. You want to read that clear? Verses let's go verses 7 through 10. You read that for me. 32 verses 7 through 10.
Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the numbers of the children of Israel. For Yahuwah's portion is his people, Yaakov is the light of his inheritance.
See that? See the context. So everybody has their own land. They have their own inheritance. That's why when Most High, if you read all the prophecies, you're going to see that when the time of the kingdom, it ain't like there ain't going to be no other nations. The other nations still going to be around. They're going to be in their own lands. They're not going to be in Israel. They're going to be in their own lands because that's the inheritance the Most High left for them. They got their own land.
You got to come up though.
Then they're going to have to come up during the feast days. So, saying all that to say this, let's go back because I want to get to the point. But y'all get the idea. So now remember now, he's coming to ransom you. You're the people that are ransomed. You're the Padah. He's the Galal. He's the kinsman redeemer. Ransom. Definition. The redemption of a prisoner or a slave for a price. Ransom. The redemption. This is not even the strong quarter. This is like Webster's dictionary. Ransom. The redemption of a prisoner or a slave for a price. The sum of price paid or demanded. The means of deliverance or rescue from punishment. To redeem from captivity, bondage, or paying of a price. Everybody went in captivity. Everybody in the world, ain't no way everybody in captivity, because if everybody in captivity, somebody got to be the captor. I mean, somebody could be one that they're capturing people. Everybody was not in captivity. You were in captivity. You are still in captivity. In relationship to the end, it's the kinsman redeemer. That's why he said the day of vengeance is in my heart. We read Isaiah 61, which is the gospel. They call it the day of vengeance of our Elohim. Do we need to read that? Do we need to read that? Listen to what it says. It don't say the day of vengeance of the Elohim. It says the day of the vengeance of our Elohim. Of our Elohim. Because the context is for your redemption. Your deliverance. Your deliverance from your people. The redemption of a prisoner or a slave for a price. He was the price. He was the lamb that was slain for the donkey. The firstborn that's dedicated to Yah.
So he's been long suffering then.
He's been long
He's gonna
suffering.
make noise now.
Oh, he
All
gonna-
the other guys will make okay.
He about to make
He's
some
been long
noise. bro.
suffering.
Yes, sir.
So I will say.
Yes, sir. He about to make some. You ain't seen we ain't seen no noise like he about to make. That's why we read in Isaiah. He said he come back. He said the blood is dripped on his clothes. And people asking, where all this blood coming from? He said, man, it's stained in the blood of the Edomites. He said the day of vengeance in his heart. We look at this context like he literally one point he said, how can I forget about y'all? He said, can a mother forget her suckling child? He said, man, I got you written on the palm of my hands. I know everything y'all been through. This is the reason why when he was carrying the stake, when they was about to crucify him, somebody asked, they was like the balling. He stopped and looked at him. He said, don't cry for me. He said, cry for your people, because he knew what we was about to go through.
That's right.
He knew it. Abraham knew what we went through when he had the vision. Scripture says that when he went to the trance and he had the smoking lamp and the burning furnace, and then he said he went to sleep and he had a vision, and he said the vision terrified him because he knew, because the Most High showed them all the stuff we was gonna go through. He showed them the transatlantic slave trade. He showed them the destruction of Jerusalem. He showed them what was gonna happen through the migration. They saw all that stuff, and it terrified him. Daniel the same way. Daniel said when he saw it, he said for days he was troubled.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to shake it.
Gabriel had to come to let him know what the vision was about.
Right.
Trouble about.
Jacob's trouble. Going back to the context. So the only way you won't be able to get out of trouble is if you have a kinsman redeemer. Right? Now, the only way you're going to be able to serve, you serve that kinsman redeemer is in the same mode as he walked in. So it go back to, well, that's why Shaul says, present your life as a what? It's the firstborn. It's a living sacrifice. It's set apart. That's the first thing it says in Leviticus. Set them apart. Go say it, brother.
Which is your reasonable service.
Reasonable service. Reasonable service.
That's the least you can do.
The least you can do. Crazy. This is crazy. Anyway. All right. So Matthew 20 verse 28. Even the Son of Man who came not to be ministered to, but to minister and to give his life for a ransom. Give his life for a ransom for many. What does ransom mean? The redemption of a prisoner or the price of a slave. He gave his life for a ransom for many. A price or a payment for the people that are enslaved, for the ones that are in captivity, for the ones that are taken advantage by other people. That's why Scripture says what? He shall save his people. His people. They done made it about everybody. No. His people. That's why Shaul says that it was it says that how he say in Romans 9, it says unto us is the laws, statutes, the commandments, the promise, the giving of the service. It says of whom concerning the flesh Christ came, or Mashiach came. Of whom concerning the flesh. Why? Because he's given as a ransom or a payment for slaves. The kinsman redeemer. Exodus 30 verse 12. And when thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after they number, then they shall give every man a ransom. A ransom, what? A payment for slave, for his soul unto Yahuwah. Right? Then the numbers without numbers them, there should be no plague among them without numbers them. So this is one thing when Most High do with Moshe talking about numbering the people. He said for them to bring so much money up, they had to give so much money when they did the numbering that basically to bless their homes. You know, it's the same kind of context. Hosea 13 verse 14. And I will ransom them from the power of the grave, and I will redeem them from death. This is what Shaul says. When Shaul says, "Oh death, where's thy sting?"
Right.
And "O grave," he's quoting Hosea. I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. Because that's what we in. Because sin, lust bring forth sin. Sin bring forth death. And sin is what? The transgression of the law. So that's why Ezekiel and all the prophets saw us as being in graves. Because they show how far we're going to be removed from the instruction. We still up to this day. Dead. We dead. We're powerless. Going back to Quite talking about the feast days. And talking about how he said that every feast day was a portal, right? For to connect to the power that the Most High pours out during them times. And it's true. Go and look at history and look at the times that world events happen. Yes. The major world events happen during the time of the feast days. Yeah. That's when you have regime change and nation falling, nation building, all that kind of stuff happening on them same days. So you have not been able to harness that power because that's been taken away from you. So just like we just read in the scripture, was it Elkanah's wife, who would come up every feast day looking for the Most High to change her fortune because she couldn't bear a child, she was barren. So she even understood that, and it was on the feast day that Hannah, not Elkanah, but Hannah. Right, it was on the feast day that the Most High touched her when she ran into to Eli. It's talking about how they went up and they was eating, they basically having the feast, right, eating and drinking, and then they poured the oblation. So we're missing all these things because these things are our power. So we're dead without it. We're powerless. We're separated from our higher power, which is, Yahuwah. Again, 1 Titus 2 verse 6. He gave himself a ransom, a payment for slaves, for all. So again, go get the context of what all mean. All don't mean everybody ain't slave.
Right. That's right.
Everybody ain't slave. So he do it for all, like every single person. He did it for you. The redemption is different than the justification.
Yes.
Two different words. You can be made just. You can be made just because you keep the law, statutes, commandments. But you're not ransomed for because he didn't. You weren't a slave. He wasn't trying to free you from your captivity. It's the people who both need to be justified and be ransomed.
Yeah, justified.
And we need both steps. We're the only people on earth who need both steps.
Right.
So anyway, let's keep going. All right. And every first thing of an ass thou shalt redeem or padah with a lamb. And if thou wilt not redeem it, thou shalt break his neck, and the firstborn shall thou redeem. All right. What time we got? 2:37. We'll try to wrap this up now. Speed this up. All right. I'm reading myself. Luke 2:22. All right. And when the day of purification, according to the law of Moshe, was accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem. Who did they bring there?
Who brought them?
Who did they bring? They said they brought him to.
Mashiach.
They brought Mashiach to the temple, right? After days of the purification, according to the law, that means Miriam or Mary's purification, because she had a baby. According to the Torah, she's unclean for X amount of days. After that, she brings him to the temple, right? After purification, according to the law of Moshe was accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem and presented him before the master. As is written in the law of Yahuwah, every male that opened the womb shall be called holy. Not every man is called holy, but specifically the firstborn. He was the firstborn, right? And offer a sacrifice according to that which is said in the law, a pair of turtle doves and 2 pigeons. And behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon, and the same man was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Ruach HaKodesh was upon him. And it was revealed to him by the Ruach HaKodesh that he should not see death before he had seen the Master's Mashiach. And when he came by the Ruach to the temple, the parents that brought in the child Yahushua to do for him that custom of the law. So they did the exact same thing. The firstborn, they brought him to the temple. They went through the process of dedicating him, right? And he took them up in arms and blessed Elohim and said, now let us thy servant die in peace, according to thy word, for my eyes have seen thy salvation, Yah's salvation, Yahusha, right? And thou hast prepared before the face of all people, that are lighting to lighten the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel. So, real fast, we're going to try to wrap this up. Again, the dedication of the firstborn. Colossians 1 verse 15. Whom is the image of the invisible Elohim, the firstborn, going back to the firstborn of every creature. So we've been looking at it as the firstborn, like he's the first person that's born, but he's the firstborn. He's the model, because the firstborn is the living sacrifice, the one that's dedicated to Yah, right? He's also the example. And he's the head of the body of the assembly, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead. So he's the firstborn from the dead. He's the firstborn of every creature.
Yes.
Going back to the context of the firstborn, the living sacrifice, right? The one that's set apart. Go back. So anyway, all things that he might have the preeminence. Hebrews 12 verse 23. Into the general assembly in the assembly of the firstborn. The firstborn, which are written in heaven. And to Elohim, so now it's R, multiple. Because what are the firstborn? The firstborns are the living sacrifices, the ones who are dedicated to Yah, and to Elohim, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect. All right, but these last couple of contacts we talking about. All right, so Migdal Eder, right? Genesis 35 verses 19 to 20. And Rachel died and was buried in his way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar upon his grave. That is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. And Israel journeyed and spread their tents beyond the tower of Edar, which translates as Migdal Eder. So why is that important? This is one of the places in Migdal Eder. That's the tower. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the exact place where Rachel was buried, but I'm telling you, but that's in the context of how they would have it set up. There'll be a tower and there'll be a place for the sheep, where they would have the sheep at. Now listen to this. Again, the rebellious ransom with the obedient. Every firstling of an ass I shall redeem with the lamb. Right? So let's go into this. This is when these writers about Migdal Eder, how it will work. Edershem suggests that the flocks kept at Migdal Eder were destined for temple sacrifice. So the flocks that was at Migdal Eder, or the place that they say that where Rachel was buried, there was a tower there. Migdal means towers. There was a tower there, and Eder was the flocks. So they had a tower and you had the flocks, right? The shepherds keeping the watch over these sheep knew the purpose of the lambs under their care. They wrapped the newborn lambs in swaddling clothes. They wrapped the newborn lambs in swaddling clothes to protect the body of the lambs, which would be offered as a sacrifice at the temple. Remember, the firstborn is what? Sacrificed to the temple. Wrapped in swaddling clothes to keep the new lambs without spot nor blemish, and they will be laid in a manger until they calm down. That's what they would do with the lambs at Migdal Eder, or the tower of the flocks, right? Rabbi Mike Short writes, we know that Migdal Eder was a watchtower that guarded the temple of the flock, those who were being raised to serve as sacrificial animals in the temple. So again, going back to the context of the firstborn, or the one that's dedicated, you're raised to what? Serve in the temple, to be a sacrifice in the temple. Those were not just any flock of the herd. The shepherd who kept them were men who specifically trained for this royal task. They were educated in what an animal that was to be sacrificed had to be, and it was their job to make sure that it was one of the animals that were not hurt, damaged, or blemished. So the context is they had certain animals that they was raising up to be sacrifices in the temple in Migdal Eder. The shepherds keeping watch over the temple and sacrifices were the ones whom Elohim announced the birth of the ultimate sacrificial lamb. The angelic pronouncement gave simple shepherds a profound revelation of who the Messiah would be, and he proclaimed to be both king and priest. Now we know the story about the birth of Mashiach. We know the whole context about, they talk about the swaddling clothes, the manger, which he wasn't technically in a manger. That's kind of like a mistranslation, but you get understand what I'm saying. And after that, they talk about the shepherds who was in the field. Remember the shepherds in the field when he was born, they understood the sign, right? And then you had the context of Eder, which ties back into the lamb or the flock, right? And then he was born, that place is also Bethlehem, which means house of bread. He says what? I am the bread that came from Shamayim, or heaven, right? And he's also the lamb, right? The bread of heaven. So and then you got those two feasts that go together, Pesach and then unleavened bread. All time back to the Mashiach, who was the what? Firstborn, the one that's dedicated to the temple. Proverbs, this Proverbs 18 verse 10. The name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. Migdal. The name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and is safe. Isaiah 40 verse 11. And he shall feed his flocks like a shepherd, and he shall gather the lambs with his arm and shall carry them in his bosom. So the context, he's always considered to be the shepherd, and he's also considered to be a strong tower. Migdal Eder, tower of the flocks. Right? The shepherds and the sacrifice. And this is also a prophecy of the place Migdal Eder. It says, this is Micah 4 verse 8. And thou, O tower of the flock, Migdal Eder, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion. So it's telling you that Migdal Eder, or the place of the tower of the flocks, or the place of the flocks, is also tied to the descendants of Zion. Right? And unto thee shall come even the first dominion, and the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. And we are the daughters of Jerusalem. Daughter mean the descendants of Jerusalem. All right? I just read that for time. We're going to skip that part. But Luke 2 verse 8 through 14 talks about the shepherds. And when the shepherds saw, when they knew, understood the sign, because they was in the flock. They was tending the flocks during that time. And Mashiach was the sacrifice. He's the ultimate sacrifice. He was also the lamb. He was the firstborn that was dedicated. All these things tied into one thing. Bethlehem being the house of bread. Also, Migdal Eder is a place of flocks, and he was the lamb. So that's Luke 2 verse 8 and 14. For time, we're gonna get that. So we got this context of the firstborn. in the reality of the firstborn, what the firstborn is supposed to do, and how he's a living sacrifice. He dedicates himself to Yah in all his ways. That don't mean that he's Samuel, where he lives in the temple day in and day out. But it does mean that his life is a life that's separated. Remember the first precept we saw for how they used it. They said separate him, right? Or Kadesh, separate him. So the context is that he's separated from the world, or he's separated from the worldly influence. So with that being said, I'm about to show y'all something. If I can find it.
You know why you're here?
All right, here we go.
This is me. In 1997, I was filmed by an American TV crew at the place I was being held, Ghana, West Africa. I was labeled a Trokoshi, or a wife of the gods, paying for a crime committed by my uncle. But this report changed everything. An American viewer flew to Ghana to negotiate my release.
All right, do this again.
Do you know why you're here?
This is me. In 1997, I was filmed by an American TV crew at the place I was being held, Ghana, West Africa. I was labeled a Trokoshi, or a wife of the gods, paying for a crime committed by my uncle. But this report changed everything. An American viewer flew to Ghana to negotiate my release, and he adopted me. Now that I'm older, I feel ready to explore the cultural background of Trokoshi. It's practiced in parts of Ghana, Togo, and Benin by various ethnic groups, one of which is the Ewe. I met with a group of Ewe elders to know more about the practice. They tell me that people offer cows and goats as sacrifices to atone for their sins. I asked them if there had ever been human sacrifices. He's talking about Trokoshi, where you are banished from the community to pay for the crimes of your family. When I left the shrine, there were about 5,000 Trokoshi women and children in Ghana alone. Trokoshi was made illegal in 1998, a year after I was freed, but no priest had ever been prosecuted, and the practice still goes on. I met this young 14-year-old girl who is serving as a Trokoshi. Does she know why she's here?
That's what she doesn't know.
I felt sad. She came here 2 years ago at the age of 12. So she misses her mom, and I don't see how we can justify that. It was time for me to visit my birth family in Togo again. I had come to the village a few times, but I never had the courage to ask why they gave me away. 20 years after I was freed, I was now ready to ask my dad what he had agreed with my uncle. My uncle had committed adultery. His house was in the capital, Lomé, a long way from my village. Are you aware now where I was taken? He took me to Ghana, Volta region of Ghana, and I was placed in a shrine. He left me. I was supposed to be there for the rest of my life. This journey has helped me value my own freedom, but it was hard for me to discover that there are still women and girls living under the Trokoshi system. I hope that one day all girls will have the chance to reach their full potential.
Now, I don't know if y'all caught what was all said in that video, all right? First of all, if you listen closely what she said. She just said verbatim everything we just read in the scripture. Verbatim. She went to the elders. She was taken as a child to the Fashidi shrine to be basically a living sacrifice to go and serve Yah for the rest of her life. She was left there. When she went, not given, that video is done by Europeans. Now again, so the Europeans went over there and they see that and they don't know what that is.
Right.
They have no idea what that is. Because the first person to tell me about that was Akwite. Akwite talking about her story. And he said, man, they made a story about it. He said they don't even know what it is. It's not even called Trikosi. He said they don't even know what it's called. He said, but they trying to go over there and try to make it to be like people being abused and nothing. He said it's part of their culture. It's what they do. Because what it is, we just read it in Judges 11. Remember the daughter who Jephthah, he gave his daughter, and his daughter went and they dedicated her to the temple. She went there and she mourned her virginity and she didn't get married. That's everything you just saw. When she went back to, remember, she sat down with the elders and they asked the elders why they do that. He said, well, some people sacrifice bulls and goats, cows and goats. That's a direct quote from Shaul. The blood of bulls and goats. He said for sins. After that, so he said, yeah. He said, well, do they? She asked the question. She says, do they ever do human sacrifice? He said, well, some gods do. He said, but not for blood. He said, but for isolation, separation, kodesh, being separate. So literally everything we just said in this teaching was just said in that one video. It's part of the West African culture. Ghana, Togo, Benin. It's literally from the scripts. That's everything. Judges 11, 1 Samuel 1. That's what they did with Samuel. That's what they do. It's literally part of our culture. It's the only place in the world where that's practiced. Like, you understand how deep. When I saw that, I was like, man, that's crazy.
Josh, so is it just the firstborn or is it the firstborn male? Or can it just the firstborn period?
Well, it's two different practices. Because we seen that at first it was the firstborn male.
Okay.
Then after that, during the time of we see in Judges, then the women, it became a culture in Israel for the women also. Mm-hmm. So that's why we seeing it right there with the women. The women doing it too. But that was in Jephthah's daughter. Because they say, if you go back and read the scriptures, after that, they all went up and they started mourning her every year. They would go and they would mourn, they would do kind of the same process. So, but initially it was supposed to be just the men. But saying all that to say, what I'm trying to tell y'all is, and this is more proof about who we are, it is literally what we practiced before we came over here. This 3,000-year-old, about 3,000-year-old practice. 3,000-year-old practice. They still doing it in West Africa today. They can't find it nowhere. They're not doing it in Israel. They don't even know what that is. They was going over there doing stories about it, and they didn't even know what it was. They thought it was abuse, or they leaving them there in the temple by themselves. That's what they did with Samuel. You read the book of Samuel. That's what they did with Samuel. That's what they did with Jephthah's wife. That's what they did. It was a process. That's what it's possible they could have did Mashiach like that.
Blessed those who mourn. They should be comforted.
Right. Going back to that. Yeah, she mourned for I don't know how many days, right? Yeah. So it's going back to the context. So we got to watch, going back to our culture, what these Europeans, they see all this stuff in West Africa and they tell us it's witchcraft.
Yeah. I like that you said they could have did Mashiach. Because he always separated himself.
Right.
He left his disciples.
Right.
Went down to Egypt for a while.
Right. But and again, the brother got the bowl, he got the libation, about to pour the drink offering. They talking about sacrificing bull and goats for sin. They got the practice of the living sacrifice. It's all there in West Africa. It ain't nowhere else in the world. Nobody else does those things. You can't find them practices nowhere else. This is practice.
And she mentioned Eve.
And she's talking about the Eve, which is the word for Hebrew. That's the real word for Hebrew. So it's plain as day in their face. It's plain as day in their face. So anyway, Miss Vita. Wow. Yes, ma'am. We did practice that. Especially ones of us that came from the place of Ghana, depending on which area you was at. But that's a pre-exile practice that they would do. So, but again, so going back to context now, when you're looking for who the people are, these are the things you're looking for. Because this is what Akwite was talking about when he's sitting there with the Jewish rabbi, and the Jewish rabbi asking him, do you know what you understand? Well, he didn't even know. And then he asked him, said, well, you know how to do the libation? He's like, no. You don't even know how to do it. He said, well, we do it every day in West Africa. It's part of our culture. And see, these things that that they were doing in West Africa, a lot of times they was doing it without the book. They didn't even have a book. It was part of their culture. They passed down for I don't know how many years. So this is the reason why when missionaries went over there to see that, we was doing it without some of them didn't even know what we was doing. It was just part of it. It's what we do every single day. Anyway, so again, going back to the airways. So the airways do, and the airways is just another term for Ewe, and we were all Ewes before we was Ghanans and all this other stuff. That whole land from Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, one time was called Ewe Niba or Ewe land. We were all called Ewes. So saying that to say, yeah, Aki, no, I'm talking about if you go back to that ancient language, they called this up airways before the Europeans got there. So this all, and if these, what I'm telling y'all, these practices are pre-European. Before the Europeans even got there, they was practicing these things. So, saying all that to say, let's finish this. All right? And again, it said virgin wives of the fetish gods, Ghana Shrokosi tradition. And we just saw that right here. That's Judges 11:38 through 40. And he said, and he went away from her for 2 months, and she went with her companions and bewailed of Virginia upon the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months, and she returned with her father and did her according to his vow, which she had vowed. Remember this woman, she was took there because of her father, the vow that she, basically the father told her she was took to the shrine. This literally Judges 11 verse 38. And according to her vow, which she had vowed, she knew no man, and it was a custom in Israel. And it was a custom in Israel. That the daughters of Israel went up to lament the daughter of Jephthah and the Gileadite 4 days in a year. So that's when it became the norm. And again, so he's studying these things, talking about going back to culture. Don't listen to Barbecue Becky.
Right.
Barbecue Becky gonna make the video, and she gonna tell you that there's witchcraft or that you're doing something. I ain't saying that some of them don't combine it with it. There could be some groups that combine it with witchcraft, but the origin of it is the Torah.
Yes.
The origin of that practice is Torah. So again, it says this is what she wrote. And the person that wrote this article, they say, how do you eradicate an age-old abusive custom so entrenched it has become woven into a people's identity? So what they're trying to tell you is, how do you get rid of their identity? That's what they're saying. How you eradicate an age-old abusive custom so entrenched it has become woven into a people's identity? They're literally telling you, how do we get rid of their identity? Because he's telling you it's woven into your identity, who you are. This whole what they call trichosis. In the context of these Europeans, is to like stop all these different practices, these age-old temple practices. And for people who don't believe that we was all practicing that, this is a statement from the Moravian Church. This is the Ebus who do the exact same thing. Whereas the Ebus who do not tolerate one uncircumcised slave among them, only when he is circumcised they accept him as worth of human company. Among the Ebus, the priests are taking out a sort of people whom they call living sacrifices. They are they live celibate, without any and all expenses of others, and have the liberty to take from others all they want and they need, and nobody hinders them. Like the Pharisee among the Jew, they let their hair grow, and the use of their scissors is not permitted unto them. Remember, that's what the first thing that Hannah said about Samuel. She said, I'm not gonna put a scissor to his hair. In other words, I'm not gonna cut his hair. That's exactly what the Igbos would do. The ones that was in Jamaica, they had the process of the living sacrifice, are the ones that were dedicated to the temple, who lived celibate, and all their expenses was the expenses of others, who didn't cut their hair and that kind of thing. They grew their locks. So we see in the context that even when it was run to West Africa, we was run from West Africa to here, we were still practicing that process, the firstborn and all this other stuff. Anyway, I will talk about the dream, but we way over time. All right, so anyway, going back to that, so it wasn't just the Ghanaians that had the living sacrifice concept. It was also the Igbos and some of the other nationalities when we brought over here. But again, yeah, Jamaica in the house. Again, yeah, those Igbos was in Jamaica. That quote is from the Moravian Church when they was observing the Igbos in Jamaica, and they had the process of the living sacrifices, or the one that was dedicated to the Yah, dedicated to the temple. So even in captivity, we still had that process. But through the over the process of time, we started losing those traditions. So So anyway, what time is it?
3:01.
Man, it's 3 o'clock. What time do we start?
12:53.
Yeah, we gotta shut it down, y'all. All right, so promise y'all, Wednesday I get into that dream, and cause I give me some time to go and tie in some of the stuff that Equite said, cause Equite had some, Equite had some stuff about the feast days that tie into that, so I'll get into that.
And it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Y'all go on YouTube. Kingdom of Kings Academy. Is that what their YouTube called? Kingdom of Kings Academy, I think.
No, his YouTube channel is called Equite.
Amma? Maybe it's Equite
His
Amma.
website is called King of Kings. That's his website.
Yeah, okay, so it's on his website too. Kingdom of Kings. But yeah, and I think his YouTube is like Equite Amma. So if you get a chance, go to his YouTube page and watch what he's talking about
It's
Shavuot.
called Equite Amma. That's his YouTube page.
Oh, okay. So his YouTube page is called Equite Amma. I think AKWETY.
AKWETY.
AMAAH.
And then the video, what you're talking about, is called Shavuot. Well, Feast of Weeks, Shavuot, Harvest. But yeah.
Feast of Weeks Shavuot. Go to his YouTube channel and watch that video because it's in depth. You saw it?
It's real good.
I just glimpsed of it.
Oh, it's good,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's good. He went in.
Yeah.
So anyway, watch that, and then I'll touch on it some on Wednesday when I talk about that dream. Cause I didn't realize I came over here. It was literally 7 days I had a dream prior. So it tied to that, but yeah, but the context is, so that's what the term redeem, and the whole teaching we begin to is the firstborn, the living sacrifice, how it ties into the redemption of the people. What redeems mean? What the kinsman redeemer versus the one that is ransomed, and what ransom means, and what it means to the house, and how we're supposed to be delivered. When I showed you in the culture, I'm showing you that in our culture, that these are processes that only can be found amongst our people, can't be found nowhere else. When you're looking for them ties, these are signs about who we are. When you see us going and pouring these libations and having living sacrifices and all this other stuff, and it's other places in Africa where they have similar systems, but through that, it's just a witness to who we are. And so when we look at this, going back to our culture, that don't mean that we're going to reinstate the temple and people going to be living in the temple. That's not what I'm saying. The context of living sacrifice is that you should live as though you're living in the temple, right? You are the temple. Now you have the Ruach HaKodesh. You have the temple. You are the temple of Elohim. So because you are the temple of Elohim, you should live your life as someone that's separated unto Yah, as the firstborn, as the one that's separated from the world. And that's literally what it means. Separate, Kodesh, holy, separated from the world. So when we seeing that in our culture and everything. But anyway, so we'll see that, and then we'll continue to talk about some other elements in our culture and how it tied in the Torah and what it really means as we go forward. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom everybody in the house, shalom, shalom everybody online. We love y'all, and y'all willing, we'll talk to y'all later.